Hello, Feuzion. My name is Alex Feuzion, host of Fusion News. You're watching a brand new Fusion News episode. I am on the phone right now with Nick Sciria. He covers the NBA for Nyan Calculus and also BB Basketball Breakdown. So, Nick, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. And I don't talk too much NBA on my show, but now that the football season is over, let's talk some NBA. And my question first, how did this whole NBA trade deadline feel? It didn't really go some ways for some teams, and I have to ask, how did you feel about this NBA trade deadline of the 2017 season?
Yeah, so there were some interesting things that happened and some things that some people may have expected to happen but didn't happen. Some things like Jimmy Butler and Paul George stay where they are. But we also had a pretty big trade with Nerlens Noel heading to Dallas. And then, not on trade deadline day, but the big trade was Boogie Cousins heading to the New Orleans Pelicans to team up with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, and I have to ask you this. The NBA season is pretty long. It's one of the longest, not baseball long. The NHL is not too long either. And I have to ask about you, do you feel like the NBA season should be cut shorter as it goes until the late May and June months?
Yeah, so cutting down maybe on the preseason, I think the NBA has actually looked into that. And I think you could see that coming in the near future. I think it would be definitely beneficial for some of these players. I think LeBron is leading the NBA right now in minutes per game. We just saw Kyle Lowry today. He's out till the playoffs, and I think he's right up there in minutes played. So I think it would definitely be a help to some of these star players to get a few more days off before the playoffs start up.
Now, of course, you mentioned LeBron James, and also we have Steph Curry. But since the half season, we have a whole other half of the NBA season to go here. But I have to ask you, who do you think is the MVP of all of the NBA in the first half of the season so far?
My MVP right now is probably James Harden. Just what he's done with the Rockets. Obviously, they brought in some help in Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon to help him out. But what he's doing, averaging about 29 points per game. He's averaging 11 assists a game. Just incredible numbers. And he has the Houston Rockets as a top 3 seed in the Western Conference right now. So it's pretty incredible what he's doing.
Now, the Warriors are the quickest team to clinch a playoff berth in NBA history. And, do you think what team can stop the Warriors? Is there a team out there that can stop them?
Yeah, so I think, I think the Cavs could do it again, especially with, I think today it's been official that they signed Darren Williams, who is the playmaker I think LeBron would be happy with. As he said, he wanted some more playmaking on the Cavs. Darren Williams is definitely going to help with that. And then in the Western Conference, I could see the Rockets giving the Warriors problems with their speed and athleticism and length. And I could also see the Spurs knowing Greg Popovich, and I think he's kind of holding back a little with some of the strategies that he might employ later in the playoffs. So I think those are a few teams that could possibly give the Warriors some problems.
Now, Nick, before we wrap up this part of the interview and switch gears and talk your career, I have to ask about you. We talked about the first half of the NBA. I have to ask about the second half. What are your predictions? Who do you think is the team that will have the best late season run that potentially make the playoffs? And what player do you think will win your second half MVP award this year?
So I think a team that is closing in on a potential playoff berth is the Miami Heat. I think they're the 9th seed right now in the East, but they've done pretty well in recent weeks. Goran Dragic is having a low-key, really, really good year for the Heat. And we've seen what Deion Waiters has done late in the game. So I think the Heat are an interesting team that could get into the playoffs. And in terms of my second half MVP, I think that's probably going to go to Steph Curry. You can already see he's kind of turning it on. as they've figured out how to use him and Kevin Durant effectively on the same team.
Okay, now Nick, we'll switch gears and talk your career, and I had to ask about you. What do you love most about covering the NBA?
The thing I love most about covering the NBA is just seeing the different types of strategies that are employed. When I'm watching a game live, I may not see something, but I like to watch a lot of games back through the archives of NBA League Pass. And then that's really where I see a lot of stuff that I wouldn't catch live, but it's really cool stuff that some of these coaches like Rick Carlisle and Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich and guys like that employ to try to gain a competitive advantage.
Hey, you just mentioned what you liked most about this, job and what you like covering the NBA, but I had to ask, what is the hardest part of your job as a reporter covering the NBA?
The hardest job is, I would say, contextualizing some of these numbers. In today's NBA, everything there's analytics and data for everything you could imagine. But it's hard because you have to put everyone on an equal playing field, and obviously different teams have different things going on. Like, for example, Jimmy Butler is obviously not playing with as much of the offensive space as someone like Steph Curry is, who's surrounded by shooters. So trying to decipher the differences between those two is sometimes extremely complicated.
Nick, before we wrap up this interview, what does the NBA mean to you?
The NBA means to me, I would just say it's an incredible community of great basketball talent, especially right now. There's just so many superstars and so many young players who are just beginning great NBA careers. So it's really entertaining, and it definitely keeps me busy.
Okay, Nick, I want to say thank you for joining me on this Feuzion News episode, and I have to, where can the fans follow you on Twitter and read your articles online?
Yeah, so my Twitter handle is @Nick_Sciria. And then they can also find my articles, which I post on my Twitter. And those articles can be found at Nylon Calculus and B-Ball Breakdown.
Okay, great. Thank you again, Nick, for coming on my show. And I, hope to talk to you later on in this NBA season.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Okay, Feuzion, I just wrapped up that interview with Nick Sciria. Big shows, huge shows tomorrow. I believe there are 4 Feuzion News shows tomorrow. I'll be tweeting them out later tonight and tomorrow. Who's going to be on? Well, big surprises ahead. Also, Thursday, I will be interviewing 2 current New York Yankee pitchers. How is that transition in the spring training been for them as well? Find out Thursday. Thank you for watching. Go back and watch my other episode from earlier today with Joe Girard III. We talked about tonight's Glens Falls matchup between Glens Falls and Ichabod Crane. Where does he think he might go to college? Did he say where? Find out on that show. Feuzion, thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Be kind to one another.